Welcome back to Shoot Your Shot, hosted by DJ Summertime, yours truly, also known as Summer Kut. Here with a very exciting guest who I'm going to introduce more formally in a moment, but we are here with Thomas Lugg. Say what up to Thomas. Good vibes for him.
What's going on? I'm sure there's a lot of Americans out there. What's going on?
So we're very excited because tonight is a special show. But Shoot Your Shot is the show that is all about motivation, inspiration, and going after it. What is it is in the eye of the beholder. Whether it's going after a new job, a new career, a woman you love, a city you want to live in, shooting your shot, there is no judgment. It's anything you want as long as it's authentic to you. Typically on this show, we interview entrepreneurs, founders, CEOs, media producers. But tonight we're doing something very special, which I'm super excited about. And we're going to focus on a topic. And the topic of the hour is mental health. More specifically, men's mental health and the impact that it's had in the United Kingdom. Super lucky to have Tom Lugg here, who is a mental health professional and expert, also my personal friend, and also happens to be a man who lives in the UK. So very fitting for today's show. A few little housekeeping things before we get into it. This is Love to Beat Radio. You can listen live on the radio at lovetobeatradio.co.uk. A little promo for the radio station. It's a super awesome, unique radio station. It's based in South London. What up? In the neighborhood of Penge. What do you think of Penge, Tom?
It's interesting. That's the way I would describe Penge.
It's super interesting. And so that's where we are physically, so you can listen to us there. Or if you'd like to see us, which I'm sure you would, you can log on to TikTok and go to Gamal Camel. Shout out to Egypt. That's Gamal Camel. And you can watch us live and see our lovely faces. So, Tom, thank you for being here.
Sorry to interrupt. My face isn't so lovely, but
his face is lovely.
Is, yeah.
He's just being really humble, but it is. So, first question is, the show is Shoot Your Shot, and it is a show all about motivation, inspiration, going after your dreams, going after things that matter to you. Mm-hmm. So just to start it off, even though it's a special themed show, could you tell us what shooting your shot means to you?
Okay. I mean, firstly, when I first heard that, I'm not going to lie to you, as an Englishman, I did think about football, but however, I mean, then I thought about it, and then I think it's about like achieving your goals, trying to strive for something in your life, and trying to make your life better. So that's kind of what I thought what shooting your shot was.
I agree. Yes. Okay. And so, want to get started with who is Tom Lugg, but really want to know a little bit about the early beginnings of your life, growing up, childhood, high school, uni.
I grew up in a lovely part of London. It's a place called Hounslow. So for all those know,
shout out to Hounslow.
It's very glamorous. Not. But yeah, so I come from a low middle class background, what you would call in America low, would call it blue collar worker background. And in my school years, let's just say I spent more time in detention than anything else. And I got in a lot of trouble. Was diagnosed with ADHD quite early on. School was difficult. I can't lie to you, school was difficult. And then growing up, also my parents split up when I was 6 months old. So was raised by a single mum. And
shout out to the single moms.
Single mums out there, definitely. And maybe got in a little bit of trouble here and there at school and college, got in a little bit of trouble, but nothing too sinister. Just have that for the record, nothing too sinister. Went into employment. Do we need to talk about that now?
Well, I would want to know, because you've kind of...
Am I going off on a tangent here?
You're killing it, actually, already. But I would like to know, in terms of, the detention, some of the tougher times, your parents being split up. When do you think you kind of had a pivotal moment from growing up where things kind of started to evolve, get better, feel better?
Okay, yeah. Well, listen, so basically I was about 14, and basically I was told I had to leave my secondary school because I was getting into too much trouble. So I was told to either that I'd have to go to like a school for like naughtier children, which is called a pupil referral unit in England, or or I could go to Wales and live with my nan. So I went to live in Wales for a year and like 3 months. It was very boring. There was a lot of sheep. There wasn't much to do there. And then I came back, and I still had problems, but kind of more determined. Went to college for a little while, and yeah.
What was your first real job?
As I said, I didn't.
You already said it. My bad.
I didn't really leave school with too many qualifications.
Okay.
So my first job, as my friends like to take the mick out of me for, was I was working as a dishwasher. There's nothing wrong with that. Dishwashing assistant in a secondary school. That was my first job, and I would take the bins out. And I did it at a lot of our shared friends' school. And yeah, that's...
And how old were you then?
I think I was 18.
Okay.
Actually,
Very
no,
cool.
I did have a job before that. I did do a paper round, but like proper job, that was it, yeah.
A what?
A paper round.
Oh, paper, like you delivered a newspaper.
What do you call that in America?
I guess paper boy?
Yeah, it was paper round.
Okay,
yeah, I call
cool.
it paper boy, but yeah, paper round.
boy. All right, cool. That's, by the way, really admirable and cool, and I bet that was a strange experience doing it at your friend's school, because you knew people.
It was strange, but I didn't really care at the time.
Good for you.
So yeah, it was quite funny at the same time.
Nice. Yeah. All right, cool. So that was your first job. It's how you started. That was the young Tom Lugg's life and how it began.
Yeah.
We now know that you are in the mental health field.
Yeah.
Part of why you're here and talking about your professional and personal experiences.
Yeah.
How did you decide to pursue mental health?
It's one I've thought of a lot. I mean, I think my own experiences with ADHD, and the struggles I had with having ADHD definitely drove me into like working in a job where I would help other people. Also, I had done some volunteering as well I taught people with Down syndrome sports.
Amazing.
When I was at college, and also I have parents. My mum's she's a nurse, and I think I have it in my blood to kind of help people.
That's really nice. I didn't know you did the volunteering. That's really cool.
Yeah. So the volunteering happened actually because I was doing a public service course, but because of my disruptive behavior at the time, they said you may not be able to stay in class. However, you can actually do some volunteering, and I took up the volunteering, and that was the rest is history, really.
That's amazing. It's almost like a punishment turned into you figuring out your passion.
Finding a purpose.
That's awesome. Very cool. Okay, so shifting just a little bit back to the shoot your shot theme, and then we're going to hit it back to the mental health.
Yeah.
What would you say your biggest win thus far in life has been? It could be career or it could be personal.
Brentford getting to the Premier League. Absolutely no doubt about it.
Oh my God.
No, I'm joking. But
that's quite an English person thing to say, I feel, from a stereotypical.
No, absolutely. That's not the only one. Also getting married.
Nice. We like that.
That's
I know his wife, and she's a really lovely woman. So I was hoping she would get a shout out.
I'm giving you a shout out, my love.
Zoe. Lovely. Okay, so that's your biggest win. That's really sweet and nice. And I don't think something that a lot of English people might say, which we'll get to the men's health thing.
What will English people say?
I feel like English men, which is part of the show, are not as complimentary of their partners sometimes in terms of speaking about it to a crowd and how much they adore them.
Okay.
Which I think is a part of the mental health aspect.
Fair enough, yeah. Don't disagree with you on that.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So in terms of shooting your shot, which we've discussed what your definition is, what has been on your mind recently in terms of future shot shooting that you want to do in terms of career, partner, life?
Yeah. So in terms of my career, I'm solely focused on going back to university, studying more. I want to work more exclusively with people with ADHD just because of my own experiences, and it's just a vested passion that I have for working with kids with ADHD. I didn't say that, but actually I work with adolescents and children, and I think there's a lot more awareness on ADHD and like. So yeah, that's kind of where I would like to go in the future. In terms of life, I strive for balance. So like balancing work with social life and striving for what we call happiness, I suppose. That would be,
that's what they call it. Yes.
yeah, or contentness, because I think that's more achievable. But like just feeling happy with myself as much as I can. So that's kind of, I think, my main goal in life. Or shoot my shot.
Shooting his shot. You're definitely shooting your shot in a lot of ways.
Definitely.
So today's episode is going to focus on men's mental health, which I've mentioned, with the lens of the UK perspective, because I think there is a lot about men's mental health, specifically in the UK, and how it impacts English men in terms of sports play a factor. The reaction to sports has been recorded in terms of domestic violence that occurs in the UK in connection with sporting events. There's also things about suicide and a number of other things that are very specific to the UK. So I think it's a really great topic. There was a film that recently came out called Adolescence, which was also on the same theme and based in the UK. So it's becoming a more and more important topic. So to start, that's the theme of the show today. What are the most common mental health issues that you think are affecting men today in the UK?
Okay. Well, I mean, I think there's it's not just about today, but I think it's a long-standing issue. I think we do have this stiff upper lip.
What does that expression mean?
For me, it means that, you kind of don't really show your emotions, and you kind of put up and just carry on with what's going on, even though you may be suffering. So I think that is fundamental. I think, it's quite a entrenched British trait. I don't think it's just men. I think women as well, but I think men obviously more so than women. But that is something that obviously is, I think, fundamentally a long cultural issue that's been, our parents and their parents' generation. It's been ongoing for a long time. In terms of modern day issues, I think we have to acknowledge societal kind of issues. Nowadays, if you're looking at the kind of average kind of person in Britain, their wage and, trying to like maintain a household, trying to buy a house, trying to pay rent, these things, cause a lot of stress, because things are a bit more pressured for the average person in the UK, I'd say. And I think, that has to attribute, that's definitely puts pressure on the male population. In terms of social media, I think that also plays a role. I mean, there's a lot of toxic, influencers.
Andrew Tate, I would say, would be one that comes to mind.
Definitely, there's loads of Andrew Tates. There's also people that are telling young people that there's everyone can make a fast buck by doing something very simple, and making people feel very inferior if they can't make that fast buck. And I just think it's mythical that everyone can do that, because everyone would be rich and no one would be poor, and that's not the reality of life in UK.
By the way, I think that's a really good point. And as someone who's always yammering on about dreams and how anything is possible, I think you bring up a good point that a lot of these toxic male figures are getting on, like, don't worry about school. You can go sell some shirts and start your own business and be an entrepreneur, and you can have anything you want. And then boys kind of get obsessed with that as young kids growing up. And it's not possible for everyone, because if it was, everyone would be rich, like you said.
But I think it's also like, you can have an ambition, but like they're being sold this idea that they can, that everything is very quick, and
right.
They're putting pressure on themselves to achieve things tomorrow, when they need to like go to university. They need to have a skill, and I think this is the problem. People are feeling the pressure to do things now, but they can't work towards the steps towards a goal.
I agree. I 1,000% agree with that.
Yeah.
Okay, so continuing on the men's mental health theme, we have a couple of those questions coming up, and then we're going to take a little bit of a relief from the deep topic. Why do you think, when we think about men versus women, because you said something at the beginning that I agree with, that, and again, I'm American, so I don't want to offend anyone with my observations from living here over the past 4 years, but I would say English men and women tend to be a little bit less emotional than, let's say, Americans. I think it affects both genders, but I would say men tend to be, as we all know, a little bit less open about mental health. Why do you think it impacts men more than women?
Why do I think men are less open than women?
Right.
I think there's stereotyping, gender stereotyping. So I think, from a young age, we are told that, to be a man, we need to be strong, maybe not to show too much emotion, to kind of be the providers, to be the... I think that's something that is, I suppose it's not just innate to Britain, but I think that goes across the globe. But I think there's just so many generations of men being quite repressed with their emotions. I also think if you see a woman cry, this is just something I've thought about, if you see a woman cry, it feels quite normal. Whereas if you see a man cry, it feels a bit different, and that is the issue, I think. And I would actually say, even myself, put myself in that bracket. Do I cry that often? Not often. I show emotion. I talk about my emotions, but I think it comes from an early stage where it's not that acceptable for a man to show his emotion in certain ways. What we see with men is that they'll show their anger in different ways, and that will quite often be anger.
Right.
So it'll be like, men, when they're sad, they'll often repress their sadness and show it as anger.
True. I have the opposite problem as a woman. Sometimes I'm angry. Like, if I'm angry at work, and then tears start coming out of my eyes. Like, I'm not sad. I don't want these people to think I'm sad. I'm actually mad. But it's vice versa for me as a woman. Yeah. So how does the stigma around mental health specifically impact men's willingness to seek help? What is that stigma that would stop a man from being comfortable to say, hey, I'm going to see my psychologist today. I'm feeling weird. What's the thing with that, do you think?
Yeah, it's a good point. I think it's quite similar to the point I was making before, where I think I think if you just think about when you hear a woman going to therapy, you don't think of it as a big deal. But it's quite often, if you're with a group of guys and a guy was to be like, I'm going through to therapy, because a lot of the conversations can be quite... sometimes they can be quite surface level. They can be about football. They can be, and listen, I'm not saying I don't have those conversations, because I definitely do. But like I've been in groups of conversation with guys where they feel they cannot share anything about their emotional experience, and I think it's quite common. Obviously, because I have the job that I have, and I've seen the experiences I have. The experience that I've had, that I've realized being open with your emotions is critical to like having, a good mental state.
Do you think that your friends who have these difficulties are people we know? Do you think they're afraid that they're going to be judged?
Oh yeah, definitely. Judgment is key. Don't want to be perceived as weak.
Fair.
Don't want to. I mean, look, I think it's. And the fact that they're not talking about their emotions, or telling their friends about the fact that they're going through to therapy, can kind of just make it a whole bigger thing and makes you feel alone.
What would you say to a man or young man, because you work with adolescents as well, that are struggling and are afraid or scared to admit that they need help?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question. What would I say? I'd say it's difficult to talk about when we're struggling. As I said, I can vouch for that myself. So it is brave, but think about who you can talk to. If it be someone close to you, like a friend, a family member. If you don't feel comfortable talking to a family member or a friend, you can think about external services. So you can think of, in the UK we have a thing called Samaritans. So that's like a phone line service for people that are struggling, and you can talk to someone non-judgmentally about how you're feeling. Obviously, you can also go to your GP and ask to talk to a therapist. I think that's really important. But obviously, we know there's demands on therapy services. Just to add to that, I think you don't necessarily have to tell them everything, but you can just gently say to someone, "Oh, I'm feeling a bit stressed at the moment," or I'm feeling a bit down. I'm not feeling quite myself. You don't necessarily have to go into detail, but yourself as well. And I think that takes a lot of the feelings of loneliness away from you. I think that's really crucial.
Definitely. Wonderful. Are there any common myths about men's mental health you can share?
In terms of people with mental health illnesses being violent, quite often, especially with people with like psychosis, there's a lot of prejudice. People who are suffering like psychotic illnesses are violent, where actually that's a myth, because most people who have psychosis are not violent, and that is kind of a stigma that they have to carry, and that's really, really sad. There's also the kind of myth that if you just pull your socks up, everything will be okay. So like,
pull your socks up, like just get on with it.
Just get on with it. You'll be okay. Not that if you just get on with things, you're going to be fine. But actually, sometimes we do need to talk about these things.
Definitely.
Also, I suppose a real myth about mental health is that it's kind of rare, and that's obviously, that is a myth, because mental health illnesses affect 1 in 3 people at some point in their life. So I mean, to a varying degree, but we're talking 1 in 3 people have a mental health issue at some point in their life.
Absolutely. And I think there are so many stigmas and myths around mental health. And if people were only more open, as Tom was today, about mental health, going to therapy, talking about things, there would be much less of a stigma, right? But people still feel fearful because people aren't honest about how they're feeling. But it's actually quite normal. So I think a myth in a lot of places is that having mental health problems is rare or is weird. And actually, I think most of us have some level of a mental health issue that we would benefit from discussing with someone else. I actually find it's more the norm than an outlier, but it's kind of that stigma and those myths that make it difficult.
And it's that stigma that doesn't allow men especially to get that early help.
Right.
So, if you were able to get therapy or to talk to someone early, in the kind of the period of like low mood or anxiety, you would be able to kind of deal with it there and then, instead of it becoming a whole bigger thing. I think that's a big problem with men, is that it becomes a bigger thing. And I have to talk about that word, but 69% of people in the UK who commit suicide are men.
It's really sad. Yeah. I think that's why I really wanted to do this episode, and I'm sure it's not different in other geographies. So again, I don't want to make this a UK thing, but there is like a suicide issue, at least in the country I'm living in today, around men. And if it's something preventable or something we can talk about or something we can normalize that could save lives, it's a very important topic.
Definitely.
Great. Another question for you. Imagine there's a young kid at home tonight listening to this show in his room, and he's struggling with how he feels. He's unable to share. He doesn't have anyone around him. We talked about this before. What would you tell him? Doesn't have to be from a professional perspective, but what would you wish someone would tell you?
Yeah, first of all, I want to tell him that no matter what people like Andrew Tate say, every young boy, every male has insecurities. I think that's really crucial. So you're not alone in that fact. If there is a man without insecurities, please point me to his direction, because he's lying. Yeah, we're all insecure in some way. And you know, I think that's really important. And you know, having a wobble is normal. I think, well, as much as anything is normal, but like we all have wobbles, and even if you're having a dark time at the present moment, more often than not, things are going to get better. And you know, there's, as I said, there's a lot of help out there for people, and you know, you need to be brave and put yourself out there to get the help because you deserve it, basically.
Amazing advice. I love that. We're going to come back at the end with some closing questions about Tom and mental health, but going to do a little bit of a lightening of the energy, and we're going to do a rapid fire round with Tom. Usually these questions are quite Americanized because most of my guests have not been from the UK. Actually, you're my first guest from the UK, so thank you.
I'm privileged.
Yes. So this is a rapid fire round of random questions that have London-esque vibes to them. Okay, one word to describe London.
My home. Well, it's not home.
Home. Meghan Markle is?
Boring.
Nando's or Pepe's Piri Piri Chicken?
Nando's.
I just tried Pepe's and I loved it. Best hood in London?
Brentford.
Woo. Richie Sunak is?
Oh, there we are. Beep.
Great. Insert curse word there, perhaps, is the vibe there. Okay, rate the Gregg sausage roll 1 to 10.
That is a good question. I'd say 6.5.
That's what I'm saying. It's not as good as people said.
No, it's good. It's good for, like, you know, it's decent.
Weirdly, I like the pizza, which people thought was
weird. I like the cheese and beans pasty.
Oh, haven't tried that. We'll do it tomorrow.
For all the Americans out there, try that. That's world class.
All right, we got some closing questions for, I guess we should call you the LUGG. One last final piece of advice you would give to a young man in the UK.
I think the thing is, I want to go on, the topic about just respecting women. I think. As I said, there's this. It's almost like because of social media and some of the influences on there that we're almost going back in time in terms of like misogyny and how we treat women. And I think that, you know, you just think about your mom, your sister. Would you want people to hold these views, treat women in this way, talk about women in this way? And, you know, we want all women to be kind of safe and not be worried by kind of this kind of hatred that's come out of some of these, I don't know, imbeciles, in my opinion.
Very good advice. And we haven't really talked about this much, but where can people learn more about men's mental health? So again, if you have someone who's uncomfortable reaching out, they don't have the money to see a private specialist, they're not going to go to a public care, where can they just learn more if they're sitting at home? Are there resources for this? Yeah,
you've got NHS websites. You've got the Mind websites. There's Samaritans. There's, I definitely would, if you're looking for advice, you can also, because we do have public service, so you can also talk to someone in the NHS as well.
Okay. And side question, Did you happen to watch the show on Netflix called Adolescence?
I did.
What did you think of it?
It was really, really good. I thought, first of all, I thought they had two very strong male actors from the UK. So all them Americans, I hope you watched it. Yeah,
very good.
We produced some stuff here as well, trust me. I think it was really powerful. I think obviously it kind of gives you the worst case scenario of what can happen if someone is influenced in that way. It's radicalized, really. It's radicalization, isn't it? It's radicalization against women, which is very bizarre. But, you know, that is something that has happened to some degree, and it's quite scary.
Definitely. I think especially when it's happening with our youth before they really have even had a chance to evolve or live.
Yeah, I'm not blaming them. I'm blaming the influencers and
totally.
I just think they really they are the culprits in all of this, you know.
Yeah, and I think it's like also just the byproduct of a new world where people have access to any website, any artificial intelligence. So in that show, his parents felt safe that he was mostly at home in his room, right? But in 2025, that means he has access to some of the scariest things possible sitting in his room, whether that's listening to Andrew Tate or a number of other things. So it's also just kind of a byproduct of how our world has changed in terms of internet, Snapchat, TikTok, all these things.
And as I said before, just remember, that guy with sunglasses with his cigar on his clips, there is no way that guy isn't insecure himself. Believe me, He's
probably the most insecure.
There's no way that guy is dressing in that way, doing what he does without a hell of a lot of insecurities. So don't believe this manosphere stuff. It's all a front. He's a fake.
Thank you, Tom. Okay, we got 2 more questions. These are a little bit more about you. What can people expect from the LUGG next?
Well, as I said, I want to work more exclusively with young people with ADHD. So more studying. I don't know what else to say, really, to be honest with you. But
in terms of how you are working with mental health, you've done a lot of amazing things, from volunteering with people with Down syndrome to focusing on adolescents' mental health, all of these things.
Yeah.
Do you have a legacy you want to leave or an impact you want to make on boys, men, mental health in general? Like, how do you see the mark you're leaving on life? What would you like that to be?
As I said, like, I want to move more exclusively with ADHD. I suppose in the long term, I could see myself, we're talking quite long term, but I could see myself setting up my own kind of practice with some of my friends who are also working in the same field with. But at the moment, it's just about me learning more, going to university, getting some more qualifications, and becoming more skilled in what I do and helping as many people as I can along the way.
That's amazing. I also think you're a bit humble, but I think you've accomplished a lot, and I think you're going to accomplish a lot.
I think that's the British in me, to be fair.
That is part of that, because the American person will be like, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that, which is also kind of annoying.
But Americans are better at selling themselves than British people. That is a fact. And, I'm just going to acknowledge that fact.
Yes. Okay, this is it, Tom. The last question. Are there any final thoughts you want to leave with the listeners about you, about England, about your team, which I already forgot the name of, about men's mental health, anything you want to say?
In terms of what was, can you repeat that one more time? I've got ADHD, so please don't blame me.
Yes, that is true. And that was a part of this, which we didn't really touch on. And we have a few minutes. So before I ask you the question again, since you brought it up, what would you say has been the biggest struggle about having ADHD? Because we didn't really ask you that question.
Well, I mean, when I was younger, I was very impulsive, very hyperactive. So that was really a big issue when I was younger, and I, got in a lot of trouble in school, as I said. But nowadays, it's more about my inattention. So I just have to work very hard. And for people that have ADHD, which I know that there's more recognition in the UK and across the world about ADHD, is that it is difficult. There's definitely some. I wouldn't say downsides, but there's some differences, and one of them is the inattention side. So you do have to work quite hard to get things done, essays if you're at uni or deadlines at work. But what I would say is that there are some pluses as well. So I would say that people often think I'm quite I don't really necessarily always see it, but they always think I'm quite interesting, and I think that's partly because I have the ADHD vibe, and I think that is part of the superpower of having ADHD. So I just want to say, just embrace it. Embrace the positives and work on the things that you need to work harder on, and that's really my motto. And good luck.
Yes, that's really good advice. And I would say you are interesting and unique and charismatic and all these things. And if ADHD is part of that, that's a huge pro. That's a cool thing.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, the final question of the show, it's kind of like a catch-all. So anything you want to leave with the listeners about you, about England, about how you feel about men's health, about what you hope to see in the world, any final thoughts for... Think about the kind of people listening to this. Think about if there's someone out there that needs help. What would you want to say?
Well, I'm going to go deep now.
Please, we want the depth.
Well, I'm going to say, obviously the world is a bit of a scary place right now, and it's not just about Britain, but I just want. I know that can be stressful, yeah, and this is a time where we've got our own problems, but then we've got the anxieties of what's going on around the world. So I just want you to know this is a really crucial time to look after yourself. So think about all the things that you enjoy, all the hobbies that you do. You need to be doing them more now. This is, an important time to be like looking after yourself. TLC is crucial because you've got your own stresses, the economy, what's going on in the world. And I think it's really important that we look after ourselves, but also the loved ones and all the people around us.